Alright, this is going to be a real short and sweet lesson, probably no more than 5 minutes. It's lesson number 22, and it's on the poor Russian material readiness, which is compounded by endemic corruption. So the USA is starting a new Cold War with Russia by jamming them with 17 plus 2 threats. I divide the 17 plus 2 because these 2 threats, right, which is we're screwing with their elections and we're hacking them. Well, they do these 2 to us. They screw with our elections and they're hacking us, right? But we do 17 things to them on top of that, right? Now, we don't look at the whole 19 things that we do to them, totally ignore that, and focus on only the 2 things that they do to us, right? Which is typical human nature, to point the finger at others while we totally overlook what we do, right? Alright, now this Cold War is fueling an arms race, based largely upon the exaggerated threat of Russian invasion of Europe to rebuild its glorious empire. A lot of people are afraid this is going to happen, the scary Russian threat. Well, Russia is militarily weak. That's what we've been showing all along here. And another element of that is the corruption that's endemic within the military. So the Russian military suffers from a historic pattern of military corruption. And here's a quote from the Christian Science Monitor. Quote, "In an unusually frank speech last month, this general, who's the Army Chief of Staff, top guy in the Army, admitted that the officer corps is bogged down in embezzlement and corruption, and that a decade of underfunding and failed reform has left the armed forces in a critical situation." Alright, so what does he mean by critical situation? He means weakness. And this is openly admitted by the top guy in their army. Alright, now this is a historic pattern in Russia. Right, corruption. I mean, you look at corruption all throughout the communist era, right? But it goes back way before that. Now, military corruption was rife during the Soviet-Afghanistan War, but it goes as far back as the Crimean War. So here's a generic comment from Wikipedia. You know, Wikipedia is basic common knowledge, right? But for something like this, it's okay because it's simple. It is often said that Russia was militarily weak, technologically backward, and administratively incompetent during the Crimean War, right? That was obvious stuff. Despite its grand ambitions toward the south, you know, expanding against the Ottoman Empire, it had not built its railway network in that direction, and communications were poor. The bureaucracy was riddled with graft, corruption, and inefficiency, and was unprepared for war. Its navy was weak and technologically backward. Its army, although very large, suffered from colonels who pocketed their men's pay. From poor morale, and part of this was they're not getting paid, but another part was they were drafted under 6-year conscription periods, right? I mean, that's a big chunk of your life. And imagine if you had, a wife and kids, right? What are they going to do for 6 years? They're screwed. And from a technological deficit relative to Britain and France. By the war's end, the Crimean War, the profound weakness of the Russian armed forces were readily apparent. And a big part of the weakness was due to their social structure with serfs and so forth, basically slaves, having to draft slaves. And then, they were afraid of arming the serfs, because it'd be like arming the slaves in the South. The Southerners say, "Hey, you defend us. Give weapons to blacks in the South." Are you kidding? They turn them on their white, captors. So nothing has changed in the Russian military, right? It's corruption. So bottom line, endemic Russian military corruption that continues today weakens their military power. All right, that's it for that lesson. Corruption is making them weak, with openly admitted weakness.